The Indian cricket team, also known as Team India and Men in Blue, represents India in international cricket. Governed by the Board of Control for Cricket in India, it is a full member of the International Cricket Council with Test, One-Day International and T20 international status. Although cricket was introduced to India by European merchant sailors in the 18th century, and the first cricket club in India was established in Calcutta in 1792, India's national cricket team did not play its first Test match until the 25th of June 1932 at Lord's, becoming the sixth team to be granted Test cricket status. In its first 50 years of international cricket, India was one of the weaker teams, winning only 35 of the first 196 Test matches it played. The team, however, gained strength in the 1970s with the emergence of players such as batsman Sunil Gavaskar and Viswanath, all-rounder Kapil Dev and the Indian spin quartet. Traditionally much stronger at home than abroad, the Indian team has improved its overseas form since the start of the 21st century, winning Test matches in Australia, England and South Africa. It has won the Cricket World Cup twice, in 1983 under the captaincy of Kapil Dev and in 2011 under Mahendra Singh Dhoni's captaincy. After winning the 2011 World Cup, India became only the third team after West Indies and Australia to have won the World Cup more than once, and the first cricket team to win the World Cup at home. It has won the 2007 ICC World 2020 and 2013 ICC Champions Trophy under the captaincy of Dhoni. It was also the joint champions of 2002 ICC Champions Trophy, along with Sri Lanka. As of the 25th of July 2016, India is ranked second in Tests, third in ODIs and second in 2020 internationals by the ICC. Virat Kohli is the current captain of the team in Tests while Dhoni is the ODI and T20I captain. The Indian cricket team has rivalries with other Test-playing nations, most notably with Pakistan, the political arch-rival of India. However, in recent times, rivalries with nations like Australia, England and South Africa have also gained prominence. History. The British brought cricket to India in the early 1700s, with the first cricket match played in 1721. In 1848, the Parsi community in Bombay formed the Oriental Cricket Club, the first cricket club to be established by Indians. After slow beginnings, the Europeans eventually invited the Parsis to play a match in 1877. By 1912, the Parsis, Sikhs, Hindus and Muslims of Bombay played a quadrangular tournament with the Europeans every year. In the early 1900s, some Indians went on to play for the England cricket team. Some of these, such as Ranjit Singh and Dulip Singh, were greatly appreciated by the British, and the names went on to be used for the Ranji Trophy and Dulip Trophy, two major first-class tournaments in India. In 1911, an Indian team went on the first official tour of the British Isles, but only played English county teams and not the England cricket team. India was invited into the Imperial Cricket Council in 1926, and made their debut as a Test-playing nation in England in 1932, led by C.K. Naidu, who was considered as the best Indian batsman at the time. The one-off Test match between the two sides was played at Lord's in London. The team was not strong in the batting at this point and went on to lose by 158 runs. In 1933, the first Test series in India was played between India and England, with matches in Bombay, Calcutta and Madras. England won the series 2-0. The Indian team continued to improve throughout the 1930s and 40s but did not achieve an international victory during this period. In the early 1940s, India didn't play any Test cricket due to the Second World War. The team's first series as an independent country was in late 1947 against Sir Donald Bradman's Invincibles. It was also the first Test series India played which was not against England. Australia won the 5-match series 4-0, with Bradman tormenting the Indian bowling in his final Australian summer. India subsequently played the first Test series at home not against England against the West Indies in 1948. West Indies won the 5-Test series, 1-0. India recorded the first Test victory in the 24th match against England at Madras in 1952. Later in the same year, they won the first Test series, which was against Pakistan. They continued their improvement throughout the early 1950s with a series win against New Zealand in 1956. However, they did not win again in the remainder of the decade and lost badly to strong Australian and English sides. The next decade saw India's reputation develop as a team with a strong record at home. They won the first Test series against England at home in 1961-62, and also won a home series against New Zealand. They managed to draw home series against Pakistan and Australia, and another series against England. In this same period, India also won its first series outside the subcontinent, against New Zealand in 1967-68. The key to India's bowling in the 1970s were the Indian spin quartet Bishan Bedi, E.A.S. Prasanna, B.S. Chandrasekhar and Srinivas Venkataraghavan. This period also saw the emergence of two of India's best-ever batsmen, Sunil Gavaskar and Gundappa Viswanath. Indian pitchers have had tendency to support spin, and the spin quartet exploited this to create collapses in opposing batting line-ups. These players were responsible for the back-to-back series wins in 1971 in the West Indies and in England, under the captaincy of Ajit Wadekar. Gavaskar scored 774 runs in the West Indian series, while Dilip Sardesai's 112 played a big part in the one-Test win. The advent of one-day international cricket in 1971 created a new dimension in the cricket world. However, India was not considerably strong in ODIs at this point, and batsmen such as the captain Gavaskar were known for their defence-based approaches to batting. India began as a weak team in ODIs and did not qualify for the second round in the first two editions of the Cricket World Cup. Gavaskar infamously blocked his way to 36 not out off 174 balls against England in the first World Cup in 1975. India scored just 132 for 3 and lost by 202 runs. In contrast, India fielded a strong team in Test matches and were particularly strong at home, where the combination of stylish batsmen and beguiling spinners were seen at the best. India set a then-Test record in the third Test against the West Indies at Port of Spain in 1976 when they chased 403 to win thanks to 112 from the Viswanath. This West Indian defeat is considered to be a watershed in the history of the cricket because it led to Captain Clive Lloyd dispensing with spin altogether and relying entirely on a 4-man pace attack. In November 1976, the team established another record by scoring 524 for 9 declared against New Zealand at Kanpur without an individual scoring a century. There were 6 50s, the highest being 70 by Mahindra Manit. The innings was the 8th instance in Test cricket where all 11 batsmen reached double figures. During the 1980s, India developed a more attack-minded batting line-up with stroke makers such as the Wristi Mohammad Azharuddin, Dilip Vengsarkar and all-rounder Ravi Shastri. India won the Cricket World Cup in 1983, defeating the favourites and two-time defending champions West Indies in the final, owing to a strong bowling performance. In spite of this, the team performed poorly in the Test arena, including 28 consecutive Test matches without a victory. In 1984, India won the Asia Cup and in 1985 won the World Championship of Cricket in Australia. Apart from this, India remained a weak team outside the Indian subcontinent. India's Test series victory in 1986 against England remained the last Test series win by India outside the subcontinent for the next 19 years. The 1980s saw Gavaskar and Kapil Dev at the pinnacle of their careers. Gavaskar made a Test record 34 centuries as he became the first man to reach the 10,000 run mark. Kapil Dev later became the highest wicket-taker in Test cricket with 434 wickets. The period was also marked by an unstable leadership, with Gavaskar and Kapil exchanging the captaincy several times. The addition of Sachin Tendulkar and Anil Kumble to the national side in 1989 and 1990 further improved the team. The following year, Javagal Srinath, India's fastest bowler since Amar Singh, made his debut. Despite this, during the 1990s, India did not win any of its 33 tests outside the subcontinent, while it won 17 out of its 30 tests at home. After being eliminated by neighbours Sri Lanka on home soil at the 1996 Cricket World Cup semi-final, the team underwent a year of change as Sourav Ganguly and Rahul Dravid, later to become captains of the team, made their debut in the same Test at Lord's. Tendulkar replaced Azharuddin as captain in late 1996, but after a personal and team form slump, Tendulkar relinquished the captaincy and Azharuddin was reinstated at the beginning of 1998. With the captaincy burden removed, Tendulkar was the world's leading run scorer in both Tests and ODIs, as India enjoyed a home Test series win over Australia, the best-ranked team in the world. After failing to reach the semi-finals at the 1999 Cricket World Cup, Tendulkar was again made captain and had another poor run, losing 3-0 on a tour of Australia and then 2-0 at home to South Africa. Tendulkar resigned, vying never to captain the team again. Ganguly was appointed the new captain and the team was further damaged in 2000 when former captain Azharuddin and fellow batsman Ajay Jadeja were implicated in a match-fixing scandal and given life and 5 years bans respectively. This period was described by the BBC as the Indian cricket's worst hour. However, the new core, Tendulkar, Dravid, Kumble and Ganguly, swore not to let this happen to them again, and lead Indian cricket out of the dark times. And the first three put aside personal ambitions to let Ganguly lead them into a new era. Since 2000, the Indian team underwent major improvements with the appointment of John Wright as India's first ever foreign coach. India maintained their unbeaten home record against Australia in Test series after defeating them in 2001. The series was famous for the Kolkata Test match, in which India became only the third team in the history of Test cricket to win a Test match after following on. Australian captain Steve Waugh labelled India as the final frontier as a result of his side's inability to win a Test series in India. Victory in 2001 against the Australians marked the beginning of a dream run for India under the captain Ganguly, winning Test matches in Zimbabwe, Sri Lanka, West Indies and England. The England series is also known for India's highest ODI run chase of 320 25 runs at Lord's, which came in the NatWest ODI Series final against England. In the same year, India were joint winners of the ICC Champions Trophy with Sri Lanka, and then went to the 2003 Cricket World Cup in South Africa, where they reached the final only to be beaten by Australia. The 2003-04 season also saw India play out a Test series in Australia, where they drew 1-1 with the world champions, and then win a Test and ODI series in Pakistan. At the end of the 2004 season, India suffered from lack of form and fitness from its older players. A defeat in a following home Test series against Australia was followed by an ODI home series defeat against Pakistan, followed by a Test series, levelled 1-1. Greg Chappell took over from John Wright as the coach of the Indian cricket team following the series, and his methods proved to be controversial during the beginning of his tenure. The tension resulted in a fallout between Chappell and Ganguly, resulting in Rahul Dravid being made captain. This triggered a revival in the team's fortunes, following the emergence of players like Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Suresh Raina, and the coming of age of players like Irfan Pathan and Yuvraj Singh. A thumping home series victory over Sri Lanka in 2005 and a drawn series with South Africa put India at second place in the ICC ODI rankings. Dravid, Tendulkar and Virender Sehwag were selected to play for the ICC World She in the 2005 Super Test against Australia. A convincing ODI series win in Pakistan in early 2006, following a loss in the Test series, gave India the world record of 17 successive ODI victories while batting second. Towards the middle of 2006, however, a 4-1 series loss in the West Indies gave rise to a slump in India's ODI form, while they achieved a 1-0 victory in the Test series that followed, giving them the first Test series victory in the Caribbean since 1971. India's ODI form slumped further with a disappointing performance in the 2006 Champions Trophy and a drubbing in the ODI series in South Africa. This was followed yet again by an initial good performance in the Tests, giving India its first Test match win in South Africa, although they went on to lose the series 2-1. This Test series was marked by Ganguly's comeback to the Indian team. In December 2006, India played and won its first ever 2020 international in South Africa, becoming the most recent Test team to play 2020 cricket. The beginning of 2007 had seen a revival in the Indian team's ODI fortunes before the 2007 Cricket World Cup series victories against the West Indies and Sri Lanka, marked by the comeback of Ganguly and strong form by Tendulkar, and the emergence of young players like Robin Uthappa, saw many pundits to tip India as a real contender to win the 2007 Cricket World Cup. However, defeats to Bangladesh and Sri Lanka saw India fail to reach the second round. After winning the Test series against England in August 2007, Dravid stepped down as the captain of the team, following which Dhoni was made the captain of the 2020 and ODI team. In September 2007, India won the first ever 2020 World Cup held in South Africa, beating Pakistan by 5 runs in the final. In 2007-08, they toured Australia, where India lost the controversial Test series 2-1, but managed to win the CB series the following month with a whitewash final of Australia. In April 2009, India secured the first Test series win in New Zealand in 41 years, after beating Sri Lanka 2-0 in December 2009. India became the No. one Test team in the world. They retained the ranking by drawing series against South Africa and Sri Lanka. In October 2010, India whitewashed Australia 2-0 in the home Test series, giving them back-to-back series wins against them. Later that year, India managed to draw the Test series in South Africa at 1-1. On the 2nd of April 2011, India won the 2011 Cricket World Cup by defeating Sri Lanka in the final, thus becoming the second team after West Indies and Australia to win the World Cup twice, the previous win being in 1983. Gautam Gambhir and the skipper Dhoni led the way with 97 and 91 asterisks respectively. India also became the first team to win the World Cup on home soil. India were whitewashed 4-0 in a away Test series by England in August 2011, due to which England replaced India as the No. 1 Test team in the rankings. This series was followed by another 4-0 whitewash of India in January 2012 in Australia. The disastrous whitewashes or the retirement of Dravid and VVS Laxman from Test cricket in 2012. Tendulkar retired in November 2013 after his 200th Test match, with Ganguly having retired in 2008. This period signalled the end of the fabled middle-order batting lineup Indian had for a decade. Governing body. The Board of Control for Cricket in India is the governing body for the Indian cricket team and first-class cricket in India. The board has been operating since 1929 and represents India at the International Cricket Council. It is amongst the richest sporting organisations in the world. It sold media rights for India's matches from 2006 to 2010 for $612 million. It manages the Indian team's sponsorships, its future tours and team selection. The International Cricket Council determines India's upcoming matches through its Future Tours program. However, the BCCI, with its influential financial position in the cricketing world, has often challenged the ICC's program and called for more tours between India, Australia, Pakistan and England, which are more likely to earn more revenue as opposed to tours with Bangladesh and Zimbabwe. In the past, the BCCI has also come into conflict with the ICC regarding sponsorships and the legitimacy of the ICC Champions Trophy. Selection Committee selection for the Indian cricket team occurs through the BCCI's zonal selection policy, where each of the 5 zones is represented with one selector and one of the members nominated by BCCI as the chairman of the selection committee. This has sometimes led to controversy as to whether these selectors are biased towards the zones. The current chairman of selection committee is Sandeep Patil. MS. K. Prasad, Vikram Rathore, Sabir Karim and Gagan Koda are the other members of the selection committee. Team colours. Since colours have made their way into international cricket, the Indian cricket team has chosen blue as the primary colour and have worn one or the other shade of blue. The blue colour of the uniform has also earned them the nickname of Men in Blue. With the advent of the World Series Cup in the 1970s, each team was to don a primary and secondary colour on the uniforms. The Indian team elected to wear light blue as the primary colour and yellow as the secondary colour. Even during the 1999 Cricket World Cup, the secondary colour on the Indian cricket team's clothing was yellow. However, this has since been replaced with the tricolour. In the past, the Indian ODI outfits were changed to different shades of blue, mostly darker than the current, and the team donned purple during 1992, and then the sky blue colour for the next decade. Indian team has got a new kit from 2009 which is Feroza blue with India written on it in orange. Currently, from October 2010, the team is once again using a light blue shade, though not as light as the previous sky blue one, with India written in orange, and shades of the tricolour at the sides. The kit sponsor for the Indian cricket team is Nike, which in 2005 bought the kit rights in a $27.2 million contract with BCCI. Due to the love for blue colour, Nike, with Board for Control of Cricket in India, launched the mega campaign called Bleed Blue for the support of Indian team in 2011 ICC Cricket World Cup, which turned out to be a huge success, and people all over the internet and places adopted this to cheer for India. A new ultramarine blue-coloured jersey of the one-day cricket team was released on the 20th of October 2010. For the upcoming tours and ICC Cricket World Cup, the jersey has been designed by team's apparel and kit sponsor Nike. Previously, the Indian cricket team has worn a darker shade of blue, and before that the team has worn sky blue. The vertical tricolour band has been made on both sides in comparison to just one side in previous shirt. The Star India, the official team sponsor logo, is on the central part of the jersey, above orange-coloured India logo, and on the right arm Nike logo is visible. The name and jersey number of the player is printed in orange at the back, while on the chest the logo of BCCI is on the left side and the ICC Cricket World Cup 2011 logo in white can be seen on the right side. The one-day cap was also sky blue with the BCCI logo on the front. When playing first-class cricket, in addition to the cricket whites, Indian fielders sometimes wear a sun hat, which is dark bluey and has a wide brim, with the BCCI logo in the middle of the front of the hat. Helmets are coloured similarly. Some players sport the Indian flag on the helmet. The current kit sponsor for the Indian team is Nike Pink, and current team sponsor is Star India. International grounds. There are numerous world-renowned cricket stadiums located in India. Most grounds are under the administration of various state cricket boards as opposed to being under the control of the BCCI. The Bombay Gymkhana was the first ground in India to host a full-scale cricket match featuring an Indian cricket team. This was between the Parsis and the Europeans in 1877. The first stadium to host a test match in India was also the Gymkhana ground in Bombay in 1933, the only test it ever hosted. The second and third tests in the 1933 series were hosted at Eden Gardens and Chepauk. The Firoz Shah Kotla in Delhi was the first stadium to host a test match after independence, a draw against the West Indies in 1948, the first of a 5-test series. 21 stadiums in India have hosted at least one official test match. In recent years, there has been an increase in the number of world-class cricket stadiums in India, with multiple test venues in Lucknow, Chandigarh, Chennai, Mumbai, Hyderabad and Nagpur. Eden Gardens in Kolkata has hosted the most tests, and also has the largest seating capacity of any cricket stadium in the world, being capable of holding more than 90,000 spectators. Founded in 1864, it is one of the most historical stadiums in India, having hosted numerous historical and controversial matches. Other major stadiums in India include the Firoz Shah Kotla, which was established in 1883 and hosted memorable matches including Anil Kumble's 10 wickets in an innings haul against Pakistan. For the last 2 years, the ground has been undergoing renovation. The Bombay Gymkhana hosted the first ever test match in India, which is the only test it has hosted to date. Wankhede Stadium, established in 1974, has a capacity to hold 33,000 spectators and is currently the most popular venue in the city. It has hosted 21 test matches. It was the unofficial successor of the Brabourne Stadium, which is also located in Mumbai. Mumbai is often considered the cricketing capital of India because of its fans and the talent it produces, and thus the stadium regularly hosts major test matches. The M.A. Chidambaram Stadium in Chepauk is also considered to be an important historical Indian cricket ground. Established in the early 1900s, it was the site of India's first Test victory.